Now, despite concerns of local residents, coyotes continue to call Burlington home, and those who live in the city should know that feeding wildlife like coyotes could result in major fines. Burlington's Mayor Marianne Meed Ward lays out the reason for this warning.
Usually what we start with is education. So if our bylaw officers see you doing something that you shouldn't, we assume that, a gentle don't do that will suffice. And for many people, it does. Education is key. Education is first. But if we see persistent, people continuously violating the bylaw, that's when we'll have an escalated response. So the fine is up to $100,000. That's not the first thing we're going to reach for. But if somebody is out there, and this is very serious, and that's why the fine is so high. When we had the situation where coyotes were biting humans, that is not what they normally do. They don't want to get near humans. They're as scared of us as we are of them. They're wild animals. But if people feed them, they lose their fear of humans. And so we had a situation in Burlington where people were perhaps well-meaning, but were feeding the coyotes. The coyotes then lost their fear of humans and would come and bite humans to kind of get your attention and say it was like a feed me. And so those coyotes, we were able to track them, but we had to put them down. And nobody wants that, but they were a risk to public safety. And so in that situation, if you have been told not to feed the coyotes, if we catch you continuously doing it and putting everyone's public health and risk at stake, then that is why the fine is what it is. We're not fooling around at that point if you've been advised, and so please don't do it. It is not kind to feed any wild animal, not just coyotes. They're wild for a reason. They know how to scavenge for food. They don't need our help, and us actually humans feeding them is really writing their death warrant, because they lose their fear, they lose their ability to be wild, and then they come to rely on humans, and even worse, pose a risk to humans. So just don't do it.